She agreed to marry him for 1 year. He never asked what it cost her.
The ballroom of the Hale International Convention Center was glowing like a jewel dropped into the heart of Westbridge City. Crystal lights, black suits, silk dresses, and polite laughter, everything smelled like success. At the front row sat Richard Hale, the man who owned the skyline. His cane leaned against his chair, his suit was perfectly cut. Yet his eyes were tired in a way money could never fix. The host's voice rose with practiced charm. "Ladies and gentlemen, now for our highest recognition, Employee of the Year." A screen behind the stage lit up. Elena Carter, Administrative Division, Excellence Award, Hale International Group. Applause filled the room. Then she stepped onto the stage. Richard's fingers tightened around the armrest. The way she stood, straight, calm, unhungry. The way her eyes looked forward, not begging, not flirting, not performing. It wasn't her beauty that shook him. It was the familiarity. Like a memory walking back into the room. She accepted the plaque with both hands, like it was an honor and not a trophy. "Thank you," she said softly into the microphone. "I'm grateful to work for a company that rewards effort." Richard rose slowly when she approached for the handshake. The cameras flashed, the crowd cheered. But Richard didn't hear them. He stared into her face as if trying to place a name on a ghost. "Carter," he repeated quietly. "Yes, sir," she replied.
Richard's voice lowered. "Was your father, Samuel Carter?" Her fingers tightened around the plaque. "Yes," she answered. "He passed away years ago." The room faded. "I didn't know he had a daughter," Richard whispered. "He never spoke of favors," she said calmly. "He taught me to earn my place." That night, Richard did not sleep. The richest man in Westbridge City went home and sat alone in his private study, staring at a framed photograph he kept hidden. A young Richard, a young Samuel. Samuel smiling like nothing could buy him. Richard's voice was barely a breath. "Samuel, your daughter works in my house of power. And she didn't even knock on my door." From that night onward, Richard never publicly acknowledged the connection. He did not call Elena to his office. He did not offer help. Instead, he watched quietly. He requested performance reports, not personal details. Weeks passed. Richard noticed small things. Elena returned lost money to finance without recognition. Elena stayed late correcting errors that were not hers. Elena spoke with the same respect to interns as she did to executives. One evening, a department manager complained, "She refuses gifts, she's too proud." Richard almost smiled. Pride was not a flaw when it protected dignity. It was armor. 2 months after the ceremony, Richard called Elena into his office. She entered calmly, hands folded, eyes respectful. "Ms. Carter," Richard said, "I need a confidential matter handled." He slid a sealed leather portfolio across the desk. A silver wax seal stamped on the flap. "These documents relate to a private trust structure," he said. "They must be delivered to my residence in Silvercrest Hills, my private study. No copies. No digital trace." Elena nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." Richard leaned back. "There's no deadline. Handle it as you see fit." The portfolio was heavier than paper. Elena noticed. She did not ask. She did not peek. She carried it like a responsibility, not a temptation. At the mansion gate, the head of security offered, "Ma'am, we can store it." Elena shook her head. Mr. Hale asked direct delivery. Inside the study, she placed it where he instructed, wrote a simple note. "Delivered at 8:14 p.m., seal intact. Elena Carter." Then she left. When Richard opened it later, everything was untouched. Inside the portfolio sat sensitive trust papers, a confidential keycard, and an emergency cash reserve sealed in an inner pouch. Richard closed his eyes. The world had changed. People had changed. But Samuel's bloodline had not. Richard summoned his son. Ethan Hale entered like a man born to own everything. He had sharp eyes, perfect posture, and a voice that never shook. "What is it, father?" Richard studied him. He loved him, but he feared what wealth had done to him.
I want you to marry Elena Carter. Ethan's eyebrows rose like he'd misheard. My employee. Yes. Ethan gave a short laugh. Father, that's ridiculous. She's not in our world. Richard's voice hardened. She is honor. Ethan's smile faded. Marriage is not a reward for morality. It's not a reward, Richard said quietly. It's a safeguard. Ethan shook his head. No. Richard's eyes darkened. For the first time, Ethan saw something in his father's gaze that scared him. Disappointment, not in business. In blood. Silence stretched between them. Outside the glass walls of the office, the city glowed, alive, powerful, indifferent. Richard finally spoke again, slower this time. One day, everything you own will mean nothing if you don't know who to stand beside. Ethan straightened his jacket. Absolute certainty, I know exactly who I am, he replied. And I know what I want. Richard looked away. That was when he understood something painful. His son had inherited his empire, but not his wisdom.
Richard Hale died on a rainy night. Westbridge City mourned like a kingdom had lost its king. The board members, executives, politicians, and employees attended the funeral. Ethan stood tall and black, expression restrained, hands folded in front of him. Yet inside, something unsettled him. A feeling that his father had left him one final move. A week later, the will reading took place at Hale and Partners' legal chambers. The room was cold, quiet, and legal. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Mr. Ethan Hale shall inherit full control of Hale International Group. Ethan's shoulders loosened. On one condition. The room seemed to tighten. He must marry Elena Carter and remain married for 1 year. If he refuses, the estate and controlling shares will transfer permanently to the Hale Trust Foundation. Silence fell like a blade. Ethan's jaw tightened. Elena sat still at the far end of the room, her face pale. This is madness, Ethan said sharply. The lawyer's voice remained calm. It is legally binding. Ethan turned toward Elena, not with anger, but as if she had become a problem to be solved. Ethan cornered Elena outside the legal chambers. This is what we'll do, he said. Elena's voice was sharp. I didn't ask for this. Doesn't matter, Ethan replied, 1-year contract marriage. You will resign from Hale International immediately. Elena's eyes widened slightly. Why? Because I won't have my wife whispered about as an employee climbing into wealth. Elena inhaled slowly. So you'll protect your image by destroying my career. You can work somewhere else, Ethan said. You'll be compensated. That word landed like a slap. Her hand moved before her mind could stop it. The slap echoed clean and final. I am poor, Elena said, her voice shaking, not purchasable. She turned and walked away. Ethan stood frozen. His cheek stung. Fine, he whispered, let the foundation have it. But deep inside, something twisted. He wasn't ready to lose everything his father had built. Elena did not sleep much after that. The will had turned her into a rumor. At work, eyes followed her through corridors. Some said she had planned it. Some said she had trapped them. Elena kept her head down and finished her tasks. Then the call came. From St. Verity Medical Center, Ms. Carter, the doctor said, your mother's tests. We need to talk. Elena rushed to the hospital. Her mother lay in the narrow bed, skin pale, eyes still kind. The doctor spoke quietly. Stage 4, aggressive. We can attempt surgery, but we need immediate funds. The numbers sounded unreal. Elena walked out of the room without feeling her feet. She sold her mother's old jewelry, she borrowed from neighbors, she begged a bank. Nothing was enough. A week passed. One evening, Elena stood again outside the gates of Silvercrest Hills. Not because she wanted wealth, because she wanted her mother alive. Ethan opened the door himself. For half a second, he didn't expect to see her. Then his expression hardened. I wondered how long it would take, he said. Elena lifted her chin. I'll agree to the 1-year marriage. Ethan leaned against the doorframe. And you'll resign from the company. Yes. No intimacy, no expectations, Ethan said. After 1 year,
We go our separate ways. Elena nodded. So, Ethan added, money finally spoke. Elena did not answer. If she explained, he would call it manipulation. 1 year, she said quietly, nothing more. Ethan stepped aside. Then we agreed. The house felt colder as she entered. The wedding was arranged quickly, no celebration, no guests beyond witnesses. Elena wore a simple dress, Ethan wore a perfect suit. Yes, Ethan said when asked. Yes, Elena replied. There was no kiss. The car is waiting, Ethan said afterward. At the mansion, Elena was shown a guest room. This will be yours, Ethan said. Elena nodded. You'll have access to household accounts for medical needs. Thank you. Ethan turned away before he could see the tears she refused to give him. Elena arranged the surgery quickly. Money moved fast when paperwork no longer resisted. The doctors spoke cautiously. Elena spent the night outside the operating room. Her hands remained folded in her lap. She did not cry. Hours passed. A doctor finally stepped out. I'm sorry. The words landed without sound. Elena did not scream. She did not fall. She simply nodded. That night, she returned to the mansion quietly. Ethan noticed her in the hallway. For a moment, something in him softened. But he did not speak. Elena did not explain. She closed the guest room door gently. Inside, she sat on the edge of the bed. The walls absorbed what she would not release. Her mother was gone. And no one in the house knew how much it cost. Weeks passed under the same roof. Elena never entered Ethan's bedroom. She never touched him. She behaved like a respectful stranger fulfilling an agreement. Yet the house changed. Because Elena was there. Every morning, Ethan found his coffee prepared exactly the way he liked it. His suits were pressed. His ties arranged. The mansion no longer echoed the same way. Ethan told himself it was convenience. But some nights, when he returned late, he found Elena in the living room reading quietly. Not shopping. Not enjoying luxury. Just sitting there, present. Ethan began coming home earlier. One evening, he stopped in the kitchen and watched her cook. We have chefs, he said. They cook, Elena answered. They don't care. Ethan said nothing. After a moment, he asked, Did you love your mother? Elena's hands stilled. She was all I had. Ethan nodded once. That night, he didn't go out. He sat alone in his study, thinking about a woman who had nothing, and still carried herself like she owned the sky. The year moved forward quietly. Days blended into evenings. Evenings returned as mornings. Conversations grew longer. Not about love, not about promises. About work, about weather, about small unimportant things. Ethan began to notice details. Elena's laughter was rare, but when it came, it was honest. She never wasted money. Never demanded anything. She treated staff with the same courtesy she offered him. Without planning it, Ethan stopped seeing other women. He told himself it was temporary. But weeks passed. He declined invitations. He canceled nights out. The mansion felt different. Then the date arrived. The last day of the contract. That morning, Elena packed her belongings. Only one small suitcase. She moved through the house without pause. Ethan watched from the hallway. You're leaving? Yes. The word settled between them. You can stay, Ethan said. Elena shook her head. If I stay now, it becomes something else. Ethan did not argue. Elena reached the door. Thank you, for trying. Then she stepped outside. And the house returned to silence. Ethan drove toward Riverside District. The streets narrowed. The lights softened. Luxury faded into ordinary life. He parked outside a small, weathered house. For the first time, he didn't step out immediately. This was where she lived. He knocked. Elena opened the door and froze. What are you doing here? I came to talk, Ethan said. His eyes moved through the small room. No marble. No guards. No luxury. I didn't know, he said quietly. Elena folded her arms. Didn't know what? Anything. She stepped aside. The house was clean and modest. They stood facing each other. Elena spoke. She told him about her mother, about the diagnosis, about the surgery, about the night she came back to his door. Ethan's breath hitched. "You didn't marry for money," he whispered. "I married for time," Elena said. "And I still lost her." Ethan covered his face. "I was wrong," he said. "About everything." Elena did not move. "If I cried in your house," she said, "you would have called it acting. If I said I loved you there, you would have called it greed. So I chose honor." Ethan lowered his hands and looked at her. "I don't want contracts," he said. "I don't want conditions. I want you." Elena studied his face. "And what will people say?" she asked quietly. "Let them talk," Ethan replied. "I'm tired of living for echoes." Silence stretched, but it no longer felt heavy. "I loved you," Elena said. "I just refused to let my love look like a transaction." Ethan exhaled, eyes closing for a moment. "Then let me love you properly." He lowered himself, not dramatically, not for show. Just enough to meet her gaze. "No wealth. No pressure. No timelines. Choose me only if you want to." Elena's eyes filled, but she did not look away. "I choose you," she said. "Not as obligation. Not as survival. But as love." They planned a second wedding. Not in marble halls, but at Rosewood Gardens, a place her mother once loved. The wedding day arrived quietly. No cameras. No press. No spectacle. Rosewood Gardens bloomed under a pale sky. Friends stood nearby. Neighbors smiled. An empty chair rested in the front row. For her mother. Elena walked forward in a simple white dress. No diamonds. No excess. Only dignity. Ethan waited for her. No perfect suit this time. Just a man who knew what he was choosing. They spoke without contracts. Without conditions. When Ethan took her hand, he held it gently. As if asking permission. Not claiming ownership. "I choose you," he said again. Elena smiled. "I choose you too." The kiss was soft. Not sealing a deal, but honoring a choice. Later that evening, they walked through the garden paths. Ethan stopped and looked at her. "My father was right," he said. "He trusted honor more than wealth." Elena nodded. "He taught us both." Somewhere beyond the garden lights, two old friends rested easy. Because in the end, wealth did not win. Honor did. And love followed.